Hey everybody, welcome back to Guns and Gadgets, your premier source for Second Amendment news that you won't find anywhere else. I'm Jared, and today we're talking about a powerful new ruling from the Fifth Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals that could become a major precedent across the country and change policing as it's known today when it comes to gun owners. The principal question presented in the case was whether police can Terry stop a citizen based solely on the fact that he's carrying a concealed firearm. Now, their decision might fundamentally change policing in America, like I said, and this is big, so I want you to check it out. The court just made it crystal clear that carrying a gun does not give police the right to stop you in and of itself, period. Before we dig in, a shout out to today's sponsor, Blackout Coffee, American-owned, patriot-powered, and unapologetically pro-freedom. Fuel your fight for liberty every morning and grab a bag of 2A brew at blackoutcoffee.com/GNG, and for a limited time only, get up to 20% off of our loose leaf teas during our Sip More, Save More sale with code TEATIME, links down below. And CMMG, if you're just like me and you're looking for a solid AR, or PCC, a new can, or just want something reliable that I can take and train with and know that it's built to last and I can depend on it, CMMG has me covered, and they will for you as well. I've used their gear for years and I stand behind it 100%. Check out their YouTube channel for in-depth reviews about their products and save big with GNG10. So here's what happened, guys. Back in March of 2022, federal agents approached a man named Damion Wilson in New Orleans. A deputy U.S. Marshal said he noticed a bulge in Wilson's waistband, but it seemed like a hard object. He suspected it was a gun and ordered Wilson to stop. It's called a Terry stop. Wilson then admitted he was carrying and that he didn't have a permit. Now, at the time, Louisiana required a permit for concealed carry. That's since changed because they're constitutional carry, but we'll get into the gun in a bit here. Officers arrested Wilson and searched his bag. They later found marijuana, and they also secured a search warrant at his apartment and found more drugs, more paraphernalia, and $1,700 in cash, about $1,700. Now, Wilson was indicted on 6 counts, including possession with the intent to distribute marijuana, having a firearm in furtherance of drug trafficking, maintaining a drug-involved premises, and lying to federal agents. His defense team filed a motion to suppress all of that evidence, arguing that the stop was unconstitutional from the start, because everybody has a Second Amendment. And the lower court denied it, but the case eventually made its way to the Fifth Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals. Now here's the key issue, and this is what makes this case so important for gun owners. The court was asked, can police legally stop someone under Terry v. Ohio just because they're carrying a gun? The answer, in the words of the court, emphatically no. First off, if you're not in law enforcement, you're probably saying, what the hell is a Terry stop? A Terry stop is also known as stop and frisk. It's a brief investigatory detention by law enforcement based on reasonable suspicion that a person is involved in criminal activity. It originated from the 1968 U.S. Supreme Court Terry v. Ohio case, and this stop allows officers to temporarily detain someone to ask questions, and if they have a reasonable belief, articulable belief, meaning you can put it in writing, that the person may be armed and dangerous, then they can perform a limited pat-down of their outer clothing for weapons, not a search, but a pat-down. Unlike an arrest, a Terry stop does not require probable cause, but the officer must be able to articulate specific and objective facts that justify the intrusion. I used to have to know that word for word. So, what did the judges say about this? Well, Judge Andrew Oldham wrote the opinion, and he went deep into American history here, all the way back to the writs of assistance and general warrants under the British Crown. Now, those tools let government search and seize people without probable cause, and the founders hated them, and that's why we have the Fourth Amendment in the first place. The judge said, and I'm quoting here, "To hold otherwise is to derogate both our Fourth Amendment and our Second Amendment." And that's huge. The court laid down 6 powerful reasons why carrying a firearm doesn't justify a stop. Number 1, it's inconsistent with America's history and tradition of liberty. Number 2, it violates the Terry Doctrine, which requires individualized suspicion. Number 3, it breaks with Supreme Court rulings about suspicionless searches. Number 4, it misuses state trial procedures to justify federal searches. Number 5, it leads to inconsistent rulings across the states. And number 6, and most importantly, it would create a system where gun ownership equals suspicion. And we're not having that. Now, you might be thinking, great, Wilson walks free, right? Wrong. Even though the court said carrying a gun alone isn't enough, it still upheld the stop, just not for the reason that the district court used. See, the agents weren't just randomly stopping people with guns. They were actually looking for a federal fugitive, and multiple people told agents that Wilson and this fugitive were like brothers, that they've been seen together recently, and even said, quote, if you want to find this guy, then find Damion. So Wilson's public Instagram also had photos of them together in the recent past. So the court said that independent suspicion, not the gun, justified the stop. So here's where this matters for every gun owner in America. This decision came out of the Fifth Circuit, which covers Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. But the reasoning, grounded in constitutional history, could apply nationwide. The court even called out other circuits that have upheld gun-related stops just because permits are required, which is big. It said clearly, there is no firearm exception to the Fourth Amendment. That's huge for a judge to say. It even drew an analogy to driving, which was phenomenal to read. It said, we require driver's licenses, but we don't stop every driver assuming they're unlicensed. The court said, if anything, the right to carrying a firearm deserves more protection because it's not a privilege like driving, it's a constitutional right. Now, not everybody agreed. Judge James Graves wrote a partial dissent. He agreed that the stop was valid, but criticized the majority for going beyond what was necessary, especially all that historical discussion. He didn't think they needed to prove that this was wrong in our history. More importantly, he dissented on the sentencing. See, Wilson got hit with a heavier sentence just because the original judge used an obstruction of justice enhancement. And Graves said that that wasn't justified based on the charges. So while this case is a win for the Fourth and the Second Amendment and its interpretation, it's also a reminder that courts are still inconsistent when it comes down to how gun owners are treated post-arrest. Now look, folks, this case is a massive win for gun rights, and especially for those of us who carry daily. There are times where, sometimes we print, and just because your shirt moved in a way that maybe printed an item doesn't mean you are now able to be stopped by the cops and have suspicion of carrying an illegal firearm. The government can't just say, we saw a gun, therefore we get to stop you. That's not how freedom works. This ruling lays down a solid constitutional foundation that protects all of us, even as the fight for our rights continues in other courts. Now, this is a 3-judge panel. They can still, Louisiana can, and the marshals there, they can actually appeal this still to an en banc and then maybe to the Supreme Court, but we'll see what happens. I'll keep you in the loop. If you're in a state that still plays games with permits, print out this ruling. I'll link it down below. Share it with your local representatives. Let them know that the Constitution doesn't take days off. And don't forget to support the companies who support this channel. Today's video is brought to us by Blackout Coffee. Wake up with a cup of freedom and fuel your fight for the Second Amendment. And check them out at blackoutcoffee.com/GNG, where you can save with code GNG10, and CMMG, makers of dependable tools and accessories. And you can also save with that same code GNG10. Hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe to the channel so that you never miss your Second Amendment news. Until next time, stay safe, stay ready, and stay free. But remember, the duty of a true patriot is to protect his country from its government. Take care, y'all.